on the segment, man. That was good information, and that is good information. We definitely need to hear more about our health, in the African American community. And as I said, not just our physical health, but also our mental health. And this is why we have this wonderful guest with us on tonight. She is a thought leader in her industry, a licensed professional counselor and certified rehabilitation counselor. You have seen her, and she has been featured on TLC's, this is Razine's favorite show, on TLC's My 600-Pound Life. You you can see her in Life and Style magazine, In Touch Weekly, Daily Mail, and so much more. She is doing so much, and trust me, as we go on with this interview, it's gonna be uncovered with everything that she's doing. Listen, y'all, let's give her the virtual hand clap, as we say, the one and only Ashley Bryant. What's going on with you, young lady?
Hello. I'm good. It's good to be here.
We are so excited. We finally got this thing worked out, and you are here with Worship Culture Live, and we are so glad. The team and myself, we're so glad to have you. We are in election season right now, so I can imagine that your job is like really, 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 really busy right now. So tell us, how have you been dealing with the pandemic, with work and all these things like that?
Yeah, like you said, even with the pandemic, the election, all of 2020 has had me full. And so really, for me personally, making sure that I carve out some time for myself and do self-care, practice what I preach.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Now, what does self-care look like to you?
Self-care for me, so I'm really simple. Self-care for me can even just be me with a cup of tea sitting outside on the patio.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, I'm not a big tea drinker, you know what I mean? But I do I'm a huge water drinker. I drink water like crazy. But I love sitting on the patio. But so tell us this. You are a psychotherapist.
Yes.
So tell us about, what made you get into that field. And you have an amazing thing that you started, and we want to talk about that too. And the name slips my mind right now, and I don't know why, because it's what is it? What is
Therapy in Color.
There you go, Therapy in Color. It's such an amazing thing. When I read about it, it was like, wow, like this is really geared towards the African American community, a community that does not really want to deal with their emotions, want to deal with their mental health and what's really going on, So tell us about that, how you got into, being a psychotherapist, and then how you started, that company.
Yeah. So really, it kind of started with my own personal journeys. And so, I didn't have any experience with therapy personally until I had my own mental health struggles. And so when I was 17, on my 17th birthday, in fact, my mom died. And so after my mom died, I experienced a lot of grief, a lot of depression, and then going off to college, and a couple of months after that really compounded. And so I found myself in a really low place with suicidal ideation, suicide attempts. I had to go inpatient. And so with going inpatient, I had to go to therapy. And my experience with therapy was I was sitting across from people that I felt like just didn't get it. Like they just didn't understand me. And it was also people that didn't look like me. We didn't share a lot of the same background or the same history. And so I felt like therapy was not for me. And so later on, as I was older, I went back to therapy and tried to find more therapists that aligned with me. And even that was difficult. And for me, I got started in therapy because I was like, okay, there's not a lot of therapists that look like me out there, but I can be the change that I'm wanting to see. And so I got started in the field of therapy after I've done my own healing. And that's key, is because a lot of times individuals will go into fields when they haven't done the work and they haven't done their own healing expecting to be healed. And so I had to go through the process myself and get to a place before I got in the field. And so recently I needed a touch up. And so I wanted to go back to therapy, same struggles. Even as a therapist, finding a therapist of color was hard for me. And so for me, I knew if it's hard for me as a therapist to find another therapist of color, it's hard for people who aren't in the field. And so that's one of the reasons why I created Therapy of Color, to allow Black, Indigenous, and people of color to have a space to where they can find someone that relates to them.
That's so interesting. How important is therapy? How important is that?
It's very important. When we talk about therapy and we talk about mental health, I like to talk about it from the concept of brain health. And so it's just as important as our physical health. We have to look at this thing holistically. And, it's difficult to have holistic wellness if one of those is off. So if your physical health is off or your mental health is off, holistically, you're going to be off. And so therapy is very important for our overall wellness.
Wow. That is what you're doing, I think is commendable. And I really want more people, to know about it, especially people in the African American community, minorities in general, because I think that it is a struggle to find people who have the knowledge, they have the schooling and things like that, but they don't necessarily relate to the issues, on what that actually makes you feel. So you talked about healing before you actually became a therapist. So what was that process like for you when you began the healing process?
That process was really difficult because for me, I grew up church. And so it was the battle between letting Jesus fix it and going to therapy and processing it. And so one of the things that I had to come to terms with is, there can be other people that's a part of this treatment team that includes Jesus, not excludes him. And so it's just more people that are a part of this treatment team that allowed me to really process my grief and really find some of the coping skills to deal with the depression that I was going through. And so that's what that looked like for me, is one, dismantling the stigma for myself that I had around therapy, and the stigma that I had that, if you are seeking therapy, then you obviously don't trust God.
Wow.
He can fix it.
Yeah. So, okay. So for people who think like that, because I mean, much like you, all of us, I think, grew up in church, you know what I mean? For the most part. I know for myself, that was not a thing that was really pushed, and I think I came from a great home, mother and father, both, saved parents, both in ministry, but when it came to talking about what was really deep rooted on the inside of us, that wasn't really pushed to go to therapy. It was more like, you better go down and, have a little talk with Jesus, tell him all about your troubles. It was more, more so like that. So what do you say to that, that stigma that hits people? Is just like, well, Jesus, that's, he will fix it, and he will, but, what do you say to those people that just only push that?
Yeah. And, when it comes to any healthcare provider, Jesus works through them to heal you. Mm-hmm. And so he sends us people to help us along the way. And so we're praying to be healed, and he's sending us people to help heal us. And we just got to open our eyes. Like, okay, here, my prayers are being answered. The same thing when we have physical ailments, like Jesus is doing the work, but he's using those healthcare providers to heal us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about this. And I know Razine wants to hear about this. My 600-pound life. Everybody knows about this show. I mean, it's an amazing show. How was that experience for you? And how did that door get open for you?
So it was just really a coincidence.
Wow.
So I rarely answer my phone because I have an assistant that does that and schedules my appointments for me. But I just so happened to answer the phone when the producer called to schedule this appointment for this young lady who's a very sweet individual, sweet young lady. And so that's how that door opened. And really, yes, it was my 600-pound life and the TV crews and all of that was there. But I really just look at it. Okay, this is someone who's sitting across from me that needs my help, and how can I help her?
Wow. Now, okay, so I didn't see all the episodes. Tell us how did everything pan out? And are you still in contact with the young lady and things like that? We didn't lose her, did we? Did we lose her? We didn't lose her, did we? That breaks my heart if we lost her. Oh, man. Listen, man, I tell y'all what, let's take a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, man, we're going to try to get Ashley Bryant back because she got some good stuff for us. Therapy in color, man. Yo, if there's anything that our community needs, we definitely need to talk and embrace therapy. We know Jesus can fix it. And like she said, man, Jesus can work through the therapist, even the medical doctors like Megan, you know what I'm saying? Like the NPs and stuff, Jesus can work through the NPs. All right. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come right back with Ashley. She's back with us. So we're going to come right back with her right after this commercial break.
Contact Confession Publishing today if you're interested in taking your manuscript and turning it into a masterpiece, or if you need help with the self-publishing process and even with writing a book. Contact us today at confessionspub@gmail.com. Once again, that's confessionspub@gmail.com.
Yo, so we back. We got Ashley Bryant back, man. We had a slight technical difficulty, man, but Jesus works through the equipment as well. All right. So how did that turn out? Are you still in contact with the young lady? After the camera shut off, is it, like, do you still keep contact with her? Are you still helping her? How does that work?
So it ended just like it ended on the show, to where this particular individual felt as if therapy wasn't for her. And, she could do it on her own. And I respect that. People have to come to terms whenever they're ready. When it comes to therapy, whenever they're ready to work through the process, then that's when, we see the most effective results. And the fact of the matter is, she wasn't ready.
Yeah. Wow. So you have to be ready. I think that's basically what you're saying is that you have to be ready. You can't force people into helping themselves. They have to want to help themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really important. So for my listeners, how would you encourage them to seek out therapy to get help, mental health and things like that? How would you encourage them?
So one of the things that I would do, so when you are trying to find a therapist, I would say do your homework first. So research the therapist. You want to figure out, does this therapist have the qualifications to treat what it is and I'm seeking in therapy? So you want to do your homework on this particular, on the therapist, their background, their experience, things like that. And so that is that's the initial stage. One of the things that I also encourage people to do is tell a close family member or a close friend that you're going to therapy. Because even me, when I go to therapy, sometimes I'm like, oh, well, it's raining, so maybe that's a sign that it's time for me to go home. And so if you tell a close family member or a close friend that you're going to therapy, it gives you a little bit of accountability to where they're going to follow up and be like, okay, how did that therapy appointment go? So you don't back out at the last minute.
Yeah. That's dope. Okay, so I gotta ask this. How, like, you're a therapist.
Yeah.
So in your mind, when you sitting there, like if you laying on the couch or you sitting there in the chair, whatever, however it is, are you like, like kind of like reading them up and down, you know what I mean? Or are you kind of like, why did they ask me that? Or like, what is that experience like as a therapist?
No, I think that people have this misconception that therapists just walk around like psychoanalyzing people all the time.
Hey, I think they do. I don't know.
That is so not the case.
No, that's cool. So basically you sit there and you just like a normal person. You just go through the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I think that's another misconception that people have as well, is they think that therapists, they have it all together themselves. And it's like, none of us are perfect. I'm a therapist who has my own therapist, and any therapist that doesn't have their own therapist, I will look at you side eye with the side eye, because
okay.
Because you cannot tell people to do things that you are not willing to do yourself.
Wow, that's powerful. So she is a therapist with a therapist, and that is that's an amazing thing. I think Jay has something he wanted to add too and interject.
Yeah, no, you were talking about like therapists that look like us. Like, is there like a way we can find therapists? Like, is there like a group or something where we can find therapists that look more like us?
And that's why I created Therapy in Color. So therapyincolor.org is a directory designed specifically for Black, Indigenous people of color to find Black, Indigenous therapists of color. So to connect with other people that do look like you.
Yo, that's so cool. Ashley, tell us where my people can find you. I know you just gave us the web address for Therapy in Color. But if they want to, book an appointment with you, how would they be able to do it? Would they do that through Therapy in Color? How would they go about that?
You can do that through Therapy in Color. I will say, so I do hold a license. So with my license, I can only practice in states in which I am licensed. So if you are in Oklahoma, Colorado, or Florida, I can.
There you go.
You can book an appointment, but those are the only states that I am either licensed or registered to provide services.
So Therapy in Color, it has a broad range across the United States.
Correct. So Therapy in Color has therapists all over the United States and also in Canada.
Wow. Ashley, thank you so much, for being here and pushing this, the envelope of mental health. Is so important in our communities. You talked about, trauma and healing, through your trauma. And I think it's so important, it's amazing what talking about something will actually do for a person. It's amazing, what just, really being true and honest about what you feel will actually do for a person. So we appreciate you so much. To all of our listeners, we appreciate you and the team here at Worship Culture Live. Make sure you guys go therapyincolor.com. Is that correct? .org. Okay. .org. Therapyincolor.org. So make sure, please, people, we have fun on here, and we laugh, we joke, and we love to do that. But we are serious about, our mental health. The suicide rate, especially now in this pandemic, is, has increased, tremendously. Domestic violence, rate has increased tremendously. So we want to make sure that you guys, have every outlet possible to get the help it is that you need. Ashley, thank you so much. Give our listeners some advice, before we go. We're going to take a quick commercial, but give our listeners some advice before we get out of here.
So that's such a broad question.
That is broad. That's really broad, ain't it? What advice can you give? Just anything, you know. I don't care what any advice.
So the advice that I'm going to leave with you today is you have to take care of you. So whatever that looks like, you take care of you.
Yeah. She started with self-care, and what you have to take care of you, whatever that looks like. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Ashley. You have been such a tremendous blessing to us. Hey, y'all, we want y'all to keep it right here with us, man. We're winding down on the show on tonight. We got Razine K. Lewis that's coming with spiritual health here in a second, man. So we don't want you to touch that dial. Make sure therapyincolor.org. I can't say it enough. Therapyincolor.org. Make sure you go and check out that site. If you need the help, man, it's there for you. It's people who look like you, who have been through similar situations like you. Make sure you go and you do that. All right, we're coming right back with spiritual health in just 1 second.